I'm Beth, and this is my husband Roger.
Hi.
And we're getting ready to take a trip to Ohio. It's kind of a two grannies on the road adventure, but I'm not taking the other granny because this is a family trip for my 50th high school reunion. We're going to have some adventures that we're going to record. And right now we're
Two fannies on the road.
Well, it's raining, but it's our first big milestone. We're coming into New York State. Yay! On our way to my hometown of Maumee, Ohio, we took a day to visit Put-in-Bay, a village on South Bass Island in Lake Erie, just below the Canadian border. After a day of travel, we stayed at a little motel in Port Clinton. And after a quick cup of coffee the next morning, we boarded the ferry to Put-in-Bay. Monday, usually everybody the ferry will take them over to Put-in-Bay. That's Put-in-Bay out there. Once on the island, we rented a golf cart, the easiest way to get around the island. The population of Put-in-Bay was 138 in the 2010 census. The bay played a significant role in the War of 1812 as the location of a U.S. naval squadron under Commander Oliver Hazard Perry, who sailed from the port on September 10, 1813, to engage a British squadron just north of the island in the Battle of Lake Erie. In 1912, they built a memorial to Commodore Perry. After exploring the visitor center, we went to the top to view the entire island and into Canada. We visited the town green. Then we went to Perry's Cave, an underground cave that was used during the war. We went to the butterfly house. And Heinemann's Winery, where we got some wine and the best Catawba grape juice you've ever tasted. We had lunch at the boardwalk overlooking the harbor, and then visited an old Coast Guard station. Back to the mainland. That night we had dinner at the Jolly Roger for fresh lake perch, fried to perfection. The next morning we headed to Pandora, Ohio to visit a friend of mine.
Kim Bradshaw, this is my wife Barbara. We live outside of Maumee, Ohio, which is located midway between Toledo and Dayton. I'm semi-retired. We both own and operate a seasonal ice cream stand, although Barbara has a full-time job. She's accounts receivable person for a tire company. And I have two children. I have a daughter who lives in South America. Our son lives in Kansas City. And we just got two grandchildren, twin boys. For my son, and that's about it.
From there, we proceeded to Maumee, where we checked in at the hotel. The next morning, we went to one of my favorite places on earth, the Toledo Zoo. Maumee is right outside of Toledo, so we didn't have far to go. The Toledo Zoo first opened in 1900 and was run by the city of Toledo as the Toledo Zoological Gardens. In 1982, the city transferred ownership to a private nonprofit organization. Since then, the zoo has really grown. And in 2014, the Toledo Zoo was named USA Today's #1 zoo in America. I worked at the zoo when I was 16 years old, selling souvenirs at a stand inside the Lion House. My parents were volunteers at the zoo for years, so I have many fond childhood memories there.
He just uses a lot of energy all day. He's got a lot. The Association of Zoos and Aquariums have what's called a species survival plan. So she
The next several days were spent visiting with family. 4 of my 5 remaining siblings were able to get together for the first time in over 10 years, so this was a pretty special time for me. Okay, so this section is for them, but sit tight, it isn't long, and I happen to think I have a pretty good-looking family. We also got to visit my parents' and my grandmother's grave sites. Then we explored spots around Maumee that were part of my childhood. I went to grade school at Union School, which is still standing and in use after all these years. Then the high school reunion activities began, including a tour of the high school, which was brand new when we attended and now has seen many improvements, including a brand new stadium, which was just dedicated. We took a tour of the town where we visited all of the grade schools and the middle school. Other activities included an informal get-together at a bar and then a beautiful dinner at the Belmont Country Club in Perrysburg, Ohio. 3 of the class officers were able to get together. With class and family reunions behind us, we headed back to Massachusetts with many fun stops planned along the way. The first was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. It was just after Aretha Franklin had passed away, so they were honoring her life and legacy.
Starting with Beatles records. Lake Erie.
In just a few minutes, the doors will open and you'll enter the Carter Theater. Inside, please use both aisles and fill in all available space in your bed. Hey, don't worry, there's not a rat seat in the house.
They were the Ramones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rock and Roll.
We got to see lots of memorabilia from the stars, including our own Aerosmith. Next, we went to Iron Chef Michael Simon's restaurant, Mabel's Barbecue, located in downtown Cleveland. The food was amazing.
Mabel's Barbecue in Cleveland, Ohio. Owned by Chef Michael Simon.
We really enjoyed it, as you can see. From there, we drove to Erie, Pennsylvania to stay overnight on our way to Niagara Falls. Hey, we're in Pennsylvania. Ooh, Niagara Falls. Probably the highlight of our trip, a tour of the state's side of the Niagara Falls. Our first stop was a trip on the Maid of the Mist, which gets up close and personal with the falls. Located on the Niagara River, which drains Lake Erie into Lake Ontario, the combined falls of Horseshoe Falls, the American Falls, and the Bridal Veil Falls form the highest flow rate of any waterfall in North America that has a vertical drop of more than 165 feet. During peak daytime tourist hours, more than 6 million cubic feet of water goes over the crest of the falls every minute. About 10,900 years ago, the Niagara Falls was between present-day Queenston, Ontario, and Lewiston, New York. But erosion of their crest has caused the waterfalls to retreat approximately 6.8 miles southward. Take a good look at those people on the stairs next to the falls, because we're going there soon.
No shower, no.
Oh, so you got your bath for the month?
For a week, nothing.
Oh, okay. That's right. September's coming around the corner.
After the boat ride, we got a look at where we had been from the top. Then we went to Whirlpool State Park, which is further down the Niagara River from the falls. The whirlpool was formed by the drastic 90-degree turn in the river. At 125 feet deep and Class 5 white water, this is a dangerous spot. You can see the trolley car that goes across the river on the Canadian side. Some brave tourists venture into the whirlpool on a tourist boat. If you listen carefully, you might hear their screams. On the way back to Niagara Falls Park, we drove along the river and saw some power plants. Then we went to Terrapin Point, which is right above the falls. It's really incredible to me how close we were actually able to get to the water with not much in between to keep someone from falling in. Hold on to those little ones. And these weren't even close-ups. We were standing right there.
We are actually this close to the water.
Still not close enough? Then come with us to the Cave of the Winds. chose to stay a bit drier. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we go on to Fort Niagara and the Finger Lakes before we head back home.